Does your stomach turn when you hear New Year's resolutions? Are you annoyed that the gym is full of people in January and February, then it disappear because of their New Year's resolution? Well, today I got my friend Fred Feisman back to have this conversation. And Fred Feisman is currently a wealth advisor to successful families. And his past includes being a working cowboy in British Columbia, a farrier, that's actually doing horseshoes, and working in manufacturing on a shop floor and designing. And his unique ability for collecting, integrating, and reframing will be key to discussing why I think New Year's resolutions suck, to be blunt. So, Fred, thanks again for listening to me and challenging me or thinking differently.
Yeah, happy to be here, Andre. I'm really curious to hear what's going through your mind as in terms of New Year's resolutions sucking. I have to say though, I don't make any, and I was reflecting on this conversation prior, and I'm not sure if I did and stopped, but there might be some bias in there for those that are listening, given that I don't make them. But let's go see where this goes.
You got it. Let's start off. So, I'm going to do what I traditionally do. So, if I'm going to rant and rave about something, and especially about definitions, I'm going to start there. So, Google pulled whatever information from whatever dictionary. So, resolution, a firm decision to do or not do something, the quality of being determined or resolute, the action of solving a problem, dispute, or contentious matter. Now, they use the term resolute, which is admirably purposeful, determined, and unwavering. Kind of weird because I don't think that's what New Year's resolutions are all about. But, anyways, and New Year's resolution does have a definition, is a firm decision made on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day to do or refrain from doing something over the course of the year. Okay. I got problems with that. It's annoying to me that it's these New Year's resolutions that no one does anything about. There's no real attempt. So when I brought this up to you, Fred, you said you had just a bit of research on this.
Well,
Or you had,
actually, I'm a curious guy, so I was actually wondering like where this all came from and if it would help us in our discussion. And I'm not sure exactly what you're going to take from this, but strangely enough, they apparently this was going on in the Babylonian days 4,000 years ago when
oh,
mid
really?
yeah, in mid-March they were planting crops. So what they were doing is making promises to pay debts and return borrowed items, and then they felt if from going forward that they actually did that, they would earn favor with the gods.
Ah,
And then, kind of around Roman times in 46 BC, apparently Julius Caesar decided the new year would start January 1st. And he named January through the god of Janus, which is somebody who looks backwards, reflects backwards, and then looks forwards, which now kind of makes sense to me as to what people are doing on the New Year's resolution. So it's a bit
huh.
arbitrary, but January 1st is the day. And then it kind of goes through Middle Ages where knights would renew their vows to chivalry. And then we kind of keep going into the modern era. And now resolutions started showing up in the 17th century. And here we are. So I just found it interesting about the looking back, reflecting back, and looking forward with the January piece. But I'm not sure what that means in terms of a commitment, because ultimately, just because it happens to be that time of year to look back and go forward, does that really mean anything? Is where I kind of went.
Well, that's kind of where I've always seen it. It's just the people just saying they're just talking about it. They're not really doing anything about it. That's why halfway through February, the gym is now bare again with the regular people who made the commitment, right? I tell people don't make resolutions, make goals that are actionable. I
Hmm.
don't know. To me, there's a mindset difference there. Resolutions just we'll just say it for shits and giggles because we're hammered or we're hungover on January 1st, or it's just we're all going to do this and try our golly darn best again. And if we don't do it, well, oh well. It's just it's. I just get frustrated when people say they're going to do things and don't do, and then end up don't doing it. And I don't know. That's more about it. But it's there's no commitment I find with New Year's resolutions.
So what do you think about it being this, like if we go back to, hey, it just so happens that Julius Caesar made January 1st the beginning of the year, and now we've got this reflection piece. What do you think about just having that arbitrary date versus like if you think about true change being affected throughout the year, what led to true change throughout the year, say in your experience, that isn't present on January 1st?
Oh, that was a long question. I got lost on that
Okay, let me
one.
back it up.
Yeah,
January 1st is arbitrary, and so is
correct.
making a New Year's
Right.
resolution. Obviously, people make changes intra-year. And so
Yes.
what is going on intra-year that allows them to make successful change that isn't happening January 1st in your mind?
Well, I think if we're doing stuff during the year, we're actively working on something and got time to sit down and process it. Well, I guess at the new year, when are we doing those resolutions? Right after Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, or at the like you said, was New Year's, or the definition according to Google is on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, you make it, and there's not a lot of thinking process or planning. So,
Aha.
like, it's just I'm going to do this and quit caffeine, quit drinking, or go to the gym, get healthy, or stop swearing, which I never resolved ever. But it's it's just statements, but there's no follow up, or there's no real. It's the attempt part. So I think if we're playing things during the year, intra year, maybe during the year something happens to make us have to take it seriously.
Ah. So it moves from intention to something a little more, like to me, resolution has connotations of intention versus a very firm commitment and decision. So
I
you
think correct. Intention versus commitment.
got it. So there's a, so other than an arbitrary January 1st date, what you're saying is there's been a lead up to something intra year where all of a sudden it becomes far more entrenched in terms of your decision or your commitment.
I believe so. And I think the arbitrary January 1st date, it's the end of a year, it's the beginning of a new. That always kind of bothered me. Like you say, oh, it's 2025, it's a brand new year, it's just another day. I always said it was just another day. So I'm not disagreeing with having that arbitrary number as instead of a new year or whatnot. But if we're going to work it around goals and commitments, um, we got to do some work before and after to make it work. So maybe it's just a high achiever problem. Like to me, people who set goals and just lackadaily drop it because there's lazy or just don't want to do it anymore. It kind of bothers me. So that's why resolutions always had issues. Is it's yeah, there's no commitment to it. There's an intention. It's I remember when I was at a workshop and we're showing this video, and the guy goes, hey, for me, when I was quitting smoking, I started joking around. I got really good at quitting smoking because I was doing it a lot. Start
Uh-huh.
over again, quit again, quit again, quit again. And then someone said something about how I didn't want to go to the gym because I sort of didn't want to. And then when I went like, oh, that's what happened with my smoking. I kind of wanted to, but didn't really want to. So when I was saying quitting, I didn't really want to. So that was always a New Year's resolution. So I think it's a lot of people saying these are the kind of things I kind of want to, but will not want to work at.
Got it.
And since it was a New Year's resolution, I think with society's training and conditioning, it's okay if you give up on New Year's resolutions because it's the way it is. That's what
That's
the marketing does.
that's cool right there. I think there's also, that's really interesting that you said that because I mean the stats are obvious. Everybody knows them. Well, maybe everybody doesn't, but when I looked at it, less around 50% of the people apparently make, I don't know who does this, but 50% of the people make resolutions, of which within a year, between 8 and 15% still are, have
Yeah.
followed through. So your point is taken in that it's not taken seriously. So then if we think about that, when you think about habit change or, doing something different, it's almost a change in identity. And the change in identity, well, not almost, I believe there
Mm,
is a change in identity. And you hang around people or you try to find that group of people that support that identity change. So if everybody looks at your New Year's resolution and says, it's just a New Year's resolution, where's the support?
right. I never thought it that way. It's true.
Me neither.
That's
until
a
you.
really good one, because to do all these resolutions and goal changes, you do have to change your lifestyle, right? Lose weight.
Yeah.
You got to be around people who are willing, who want to support that. Because it's funny how it's not that they consciously want to shit on you. It's just you're making them uncomfortable because you're doing something that they don't want to do. So they'll try and pressure you out of it subconsciously. I'm going to say 90% of the time. And then that requires a change of identity. I got to become a different person to do this. So now
Hmm.
you got me thinking about 2025 for me, because now I definitely have to change. It's an identity change I got to do, not my service changes. You got me on that one. That's why I like talking with you, Fred. You come up
Well,
with good, smart stuff.
and it all came from that point of, are people around you really taking your resolution that you're making seriously? And I think the answer is probably not, because everybody inherently knows it's rare that it ever comes to be. So it's more like you say, a party trick.
Or is it a party trick, or just it's about, yeah, okay, it's welcome back to the group.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So it's
Yeah.
not like, hey, oh, it's, it's resolutions is okay to give up. We get it, but it's actually welcome back to the group.
Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Like for me and you, we've done this many times, right? Over our entrepreneur career, our growth actually separates us from other people. Other people decide that we're not to be associated with us anymore or friends anymore,
Yeah. Yeah. You
right?
got to change your group. Yeah.
So, and that's a continual change, and that's the tough part, is to get out away from that, comfortability or comfort zone. And then people will work hard to make sure to bring you back down to their level, which again, subconscious, all good intentions. But in the end, if you want to go somewhere, move forward, sometimes you gotta leave the past behind. And either that's people, habits, and I really like this identity part. This identity part. We got to change our identity of ourselves. We got to do that to ourselves first.
Yeah.
So goals are change of identity. You bastard. This is good stuff.
Well, yeah, I don't know what to say to that. I'm going to have to leave that one alone. I think the simplest way to think about that one is, the gym analogy is, you've got to become somebody who exercises. That's a change of identity, not somebody who goes to the gym,
Yeah.
somebody who exercises. And then you just find like-minded people. And if that's what they do, that's what you'll do. And if the other ones are eating potato chips and don't want to go to the gym, well, it's pretty easy to eat potato chips, which,
Yeah.
by the way, is one of my favorite vices. But yeah,
But at the same time, some people surprise you and join you as well if you invite them.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so to circle back to New Year's resolutions, how does one actually make this, more in the spirit of Janice, a reflection on the past and look forward to the future? Or does one bother in your
No,
mind?
no. Like you're gonna hear on Thursday, it's I'm doing my annual gratitude review of the year, but I'm also setting up goals for 2025 for the following year. So based on my growth, high achievers, this is like when I was talking with Dr. Mary Anderson. High achievers always reflect on the things they have not achieved yet. That's their focus.
Oh,
So we have a habit to forget to look back, which in our world, that's the gap,
yeah.
or for the game, we look back and to look back at what we've achieved. And it has to be written down. I on my OneNote app, I got a page, happy moments. So I got a lot of good things that's happened. I put it up there and I review it regularly because it reminds me of what I've achieved. And that changes your energy level, confidence, as well as say, well, actually, I haven't achieved all this stuff. Crap, you suck, Andre. But then you look back going, well, actually, 2024 was really good. I did good stuff. So that changes your energy level and your opinion about yourself to set goals for 2025, not resolutions, goals that are actionable, goals you have to plan. So I hate using the acronym, but the SMART goals, measurable, actionable, and review
Yeah.
them and do them. And then I know I do say you can drop goals if they no longer serve you, but you got to have it, what's the reason, what's the purpose? And the key is to writing them down. I think a lot of times resolutions are just flippant, just done flippantly and just stated.
There it is. Yeah.
Sort of
Yeah.
want to, kind of want to, don't want to. But the
Yeah.
goals, if we got to sit down and do it, and for the ADHD entrepreneur, if we don't write it down, we're never going to understand it, and we can never see it. We need to see it on paper, and that's something we can reflect, and it's not in our head anymore, so we can see it and measure it as you go along.
Becomes a little more real when you put it on paper as opposed to just putting it into the ether.
Right. Like I'll say, like one year I decided my health's going to be number one for my, at the end of the January or end of December, beginning of January, I said health's going to be number one. But I didn't say I'm going to go to the gym. I actually sat down and laid out a plan, how frequently, what I want to do. So I hired a trainer to understand the exercises, and even just getting the trainer for 2 months help you create the habits of going regularly. When you're paying someone good money, you're not going to just say, I'm lazy. I want to stay in bed today, because I'm
Yeah.
paying that guy money.
Yeah.
And because they don't refund, this guy would not refund if he canceled too early, too late, right?
Love
So,
it.
but after a while, that's a habit. It becomes a
Got it.
habit with time. But I planned it out, and I strategically made a plan and goals to achieve that goal ultimately. And then now it's a habit I can't get out of.
That's part of who you are and what you do. So
It's
what I
identity.
heard,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. What I heard about this January 1st thing is that you're using this time to do that reflection of the happy moments and then using that as fuel for the thinking going forward. It's just you're not buying into the resolution, to put it in quotes,
Yeah.
idea, actually putting process in and working through it as opposed to just a moment in time where you verbalize something.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with using January 1st as a restart. The calendar year, planning, budgeting, calendar year just makes sense for a lot of people, especially your team. If you're going to use your annual revenue goals, just use the calendar year versus the fiscal. It's more, it makes logical sense. So I don't disagree with January 1st. And actually, I just accidentally ran into doing that habit on the podcast, is doing the gratitude review, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that we got to do more frequently. Like in our workshops, we go strategic coach, there's a positive focus every time we meet, right? We write down what we accomplished the last quarter, right?
Yep.
Which sets up your mindset to figure out what you're happy, what's working now, and then what you can gain in the future. And then with the planning. But it's got to be intentional, an intentional commitment. I think, all right, I might be confusing. You said intention versus commitment, but is intentional different than intention?
Um,
No, it's got to be an actionable commitment. I'll use that word.
I think intention to me implies merely that is just I feel like I might, or
Yeah.
there's a lot of, you know, there's no firmness to it, no thought of what might, buck you off the horse. Like, how are you going to stay on when the thing gets rough? Like, what's
Yeah.
your plan? And I think that's what makes a commitment is a firm, unwavering, I guess, idea of what the direction you might take, and then like you do, work out, what it is that'll keep you on the path.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't find, now that we think about this, I've never really thought about it that closely. Resolutions are just, there's nothing wrong with the idea, but they're a start. I don't know how many people actually go past just making that first impulsive move forward without any sort of firm ideas to what the purpose is or how that's going to change their life.
Yeah. Maybe that's the other thing too, is people don't really reflect properly on how it will change your life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know about you, but a lot of the resolutions I hear are just the same old, same old. It's, there's probably a top 10, and 99% of people pick one of the top 10. But
Yeah, there's a quote somebody told me once and says, my vision of the future helps me sustain my present agony. And so if you're just in terms of a New Year's resolution, hey, I'm going to go to the gym, that really doesn't speak to the vision of the future. That
yeah,
just speaks to doing something, right? And when the agony starts, which is I got to get out of bed at 5 a.m. to do this, that there's nothing compelling really other than you said you would.
right. Yeah.
So maybe that's part of it too. Yeah. So now that we've kind of walked through this a little bit, from the start of the conversation where you said that these are all BS, which I'm not saying you've changed your mind on that, but what is it that's happened to your thinking in terms of this whole thought of New Year's resolutions?
Well, I think since do you, if we want to look at the marketing and the way I think society is looking at New Year's resolution, there is no identity change, like you said.
Hmm.
Like the resolution, there's no commitment. There's an intention, but no commitment. But to do the commitment, any change requires a change of identity in a lifestyle, especially if it's a lifestyle change, getting healthier, uh, quitting alcohol or certain vices. Even resolutions. Actually, a lot of resolutions is about removing things, not necessarily gaining new things. Maybe that's a part of the problem. Like, I want to lose weight. I want to stop drinking. I want to stop smoking. I want to stop all these vices that we're trained and by marketing that these are not bad. These are bad things for you, but we're still going to trick you to buy it and do it. But have you heard a lot of people having New Year's resolutions say, I want to increase, better. I want to find some new friends, or I want to find a new career that's more about my unique ability and I'll be happier. I always see the resolution is all about reducing or removing something.
That's curious. I'm going to have to listen a lot closer if I am around
Yeah.
anybody that's doing that.
Like
Yeah.
it is by quitting smoking, by quitting all the vices and that, get healthier. It's good, but it's still a removal of something. But it advances certain things, but not necessarily our certain happiness or personal growth. And so by finding new friends or finding a new hobby, like I don't really hear a lot of people talking about doing new things with resolutions. But with a goal, we have to progress somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think to your point, um, it's all, well, perhaps the resolution, just the framing of the resolution to yourself is telling you where your attention is.
Right.
And there needs to be a little bit of work around, okay, so what's the reason that I'm thinking of removing this? And then you get to more of a higher purpose or objective, and then you can work into that positive focus in terms of what you're really trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And like to me, the whole identity change is a big one. Like the lifestyle change and every yeah. Like for me, the big takeaway I got this for me personally is what I want to do 2025 is not about how I change doing things. I got to change my identity first to get that change of work and new clients and tasks
Yeah.
that I want to do.
And I think that implies a little bit of self-talk, in a New Year's resolution, there's no self-talk going on. It's just I'm
Yeah.
going to flippantly do something. So this identity changes. This is who I am, and then you're around people that are like that or tell you that you're like that, and then you start to find evidence of that in your daily actions, and it becomes self-reinforcing. It's like, yes, that is who I am, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that to me is what creates long-term shifts in behaviors, thinking, that sort of thing is your perception of who you are.
Well, I think there's another thing, like you just said, goals are long term. I think resolutions are short term. I think that's
Hmm.
how a lot of people perceives it.
And perhaps resolutions are a necessary start to identifying, the things that you want to transform. Maybe they're a clue.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying it's completely crap. Like, I'm not trying to say stop doing resolutions.
Right.
It's a good start. I agree. It's just I don't know. Maybe it's the high achiever side of me. Is just if people just gonna quit easily, then what's the point of doing them, right? But yeah, when I hear New Year's resolutions, I think I automatically guess that there's going to be no commitment. It's just a discussion point, and it's something you sort of want to, but not really. So
So I better be careful. People better be careful around you, Andre, because it sounds like as soon as they verbalize a resolution, you're going to try to dig in and make it into a goal.
I'm gonna want, yeah, I will ask what they're planning to do. What's the end goal? How
Yeah.
long? And then to determine the seriousness. right?
Actually, it's a good point.
Like
Yeah.
that's just the way I'm wired.
Yeah. No,
It's,
and it's fair. And I think to your point, we do these quarterly reviews are, through the coaching program. And I think it becomes quite habitual to set new goals and flesh things out and actually discard things that we're not willing to put any time, energy, or effort into. And perhaps rubs you a little bit about the lack of process in terms of the New Year's resolution.
well, here's one more thing. When you were talking there, hit me again. Resolutions, um, with a goal, if you're not achieving it, we modify the goal depending on the situation. So, you want a goal of 20 customers by the end of next year. You're halfway through, you're only at 5. All right. So what? Now we'll modify the goal. Maybe now it has to become 15 because of what we know. We can modify the goals based on the information we have at the time because we were doing something. And I think with the resolution, if you don't achieve it, you're a complete failure. That's the other mindset around it, I think. I want to get 20. The resolution is to get 20 customers or lose 20 pounds or 50 pounds. But if you don't achieve it, again, I guess in a way, it's the way you're going to think about it, gap versus the gain. But that just kind of hit me where the goals, you're allowed to modify as you go because if it's actionable. Well, the resolution is there's not a lot of leeway. The way I understand, there's no leeway for modifying. It's just either you do it or you don't.
Yeah. And nobody really expects you to do it anyway, to bring it back to what you said.
It's true.
Right? So it's like, well, nobody's really looking at me except for me. Everybody's actually like, one of those resolutions that nobody does. I guess
Yeah.
Andre's just another one of us.
What are you thinking about this conversation? What thoughts do you have?
Well, I do, what I think it is. And here's what I'm going to change personally. I've never really done an annual broad-based thinking about the whole year and then basically speaking to myself about what the year might look like going forward on January 1st. I tend to do that during other parts of the year and maybe sporadically, and I think this has given me a sense of maybe this is a great time. Janus is in my mind. I really like that two-headed. If you look at the coin, it's two-headed, one looking back, one forward. So whenever I flip the Janus coin, out, I guess it'll be January 1st. I think the point on resolution is interesting to me in that I think it's a clue. And I really want the next time somebody says a New Year's resolution, I think it's going to be a scary thing because then I'm going to have a whole bunch of questions about that because it's a clue. It's where their attention is. It's where my attention is. So what am I going to do about it as opposed to just picking that low hanging fruit of I'll go to the gym or I'll do this. Where are the tactics? Where are the strategies? Where's the objective? I think if a guy could get to that, there's some real benefit to all this.
And you got a really good point there too. The pre-thinking, it's not just done the day of. Like the goals I want for 2025, I've been thinking about for the last couple of months and kind of planning. Using January 1st as your start date, I think that's a valid statement and a valid something very good to do. A start date that's in the future is always good and easier to achieve the goal so you can plan and do it. So I think that's the other decision. Like resolutions is done the night of or the day of January 1st, and then we'll see what happens.
And I think that last part sucks.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. That's not how we work.
No.
And to your point, yeah, anyway, we don't want to keep going because
And
there's
to my point, what?
Come on. Well, when you talked about, the 15 clients instead of the 20 and changing the goal, I would also say a person doesn't necessarily need to change the goal, but change tactics.
Yes, that's a better way. Yeah.
Right. But you might do both. But I guess the point on the resolution piece, New Year's resolutions, is people don't bother changing tactics. They're just like, oh, well, it didn't work out.
Yes. Great way to end it. It's all about tactics.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Andre. My brain is going to be churning for a little while on this one.
No, it's good. I appreciate it because I don't know. It's just something it's been bothering me for quite a few decades, actually.
Yeah.
But so if you want to make changes in the new year, set goals, write them down, determine the tactics and do them. Stop talking about it. Okay. High achievers have a hard time talking about things and achieving them. They have to be goals. So if you keep that in mind, your New Year's resolutions should be goals. And I'm trying to figure out the question. What are your goals for 2025? I got a new prompter and I'm still trying to figure it out. So I apologize to everyone. But what are your goals for 2025? Actionable goals and tactics. I want to hear about your tactics. Email me at andretheImpulsiveThinker.com. Share them with me. Even share me some of your highlights from 2024. I would like to hear from you about that. So, Fred, buddy, thanks again for your time.
Anytime. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you in the new year.
Same here, my friend. And to you, the listener, thanks again for learning with me. We'll talk to you soon.